G'day and welcome to this wildwalks screencast. This is part of my application for the Apps for New South Wales competition, and really appreciate your time listening to this. The idea of this video is just to try to give you a sense of what we do at wildwalks, but probably more importantly, instead of giving a detailed overview, is to focus on where data comes from and how we augment data from different government departments with our own data to seamlessly provide a service to people in New South Wales. And that service is primarily around nature-based recreation, so looking at bushwalking and camping, and hopefully in time we'll be able to grow this service to cover a wider range. Briefly, the service is provided for free to the public, and we are able to do this through sponsorship, through commercial as well as through National Parks service as well. So let's kick off by looking at bushwalking, because that's really our main gig, and we'll look at how we use these different sets of data. So we categorise walks by time and grade and location and parks and regions and that sort of stuff. So let's look in Sydney Harbour, and you'll get a sense straight away of where we've already started using government data. So from the LPMA, the Lands Department, we have got a data source which is an outline, a boundary of different regions, so of local government areas and of parks and reserves. So this data we can then use by overlaying our own data of where a walk goes and work out where in space in New South Wales this walk goes. So you can see here this walk goes through Mossman local government area and not through another park. So that's not something we enter, that's something that's calculated based on that data provided. And you can see this one here that goes through Sydney Harbour National Park. Again, that's calculated based on the information provided by the Department of Lands. So you can see straight away that we're using that Mossman, Manly, Sydney Harbour. So let's go through and find a walk that you may or may not be familiar with, but a fairly well-known walk in Sydney, which is the Spit Bridge to Manly that we've documented. And so far we've documented about just over 800 walks in the Greater Sydney region. Okay, so looking in here, there's some data here. This climb information, I'll explain a little bit later, but that comes from Departments of Lands data, and we've already mentioned this one. This bit of information here is calculated on information from the Geographic Names Register, so it provides us information as to where Manly is. We know where the start of the walk is and can simply calculate the distance and the direction to Manly. So there's a lot of information that we're using here that's not clearly visible to the public, but really makes this service something that's of great value to the community. Probably the biggest thing and most obvious thing to users is this map, and a printable version one, which I'll show you later. It is from the Department of Lands, LPMA, again, and is the topographical map data set, and they've kindly provided us, allow us to produce maps, unique maps for each walk. So we're not trying to scan maps, we're using their data set and creating a specialised map that just suits this particular walk, and then we overlay that with our own data, so where the walk goes and our own highlighting and points of interest along the way, which is explained in more detail in our general overview video. But that's probably one of the more critical bits of data that we provide, that are provided to us. Down here is a list of maps that you can also use if you're planning on doing this walk. And you can see that this walk covers two topo maps, the Parramatta River and Sydney Heads maps. And this data comes from LPMA, where we've managed to get the name, the series, scale, the code, and some other information, including the boundaries of the map, the maximum latitudes and longitudes. and we're able to then calculate based on, we know where the walk is, and we know which maps cover different areas, so we're able to calculate which walks need which maps and display that to people. So again, this is not something we type in, this is something that we're able to calculate based on that data. We also provide photos, but that's nothing coming from government departments there. We've got here a terrain profile. It's a fairly flat walk, so not the most detailed terrain profile, but this is the start of the walk and the end of the walk. And what we do is, with LPMA data, we've built up what's called a digital elevation model, which shows us at points in New South Wales what the altitude is at that particular point. And so with that data, we've managed to stick it all into a big database, and with the path data that we've got for a particular walk, the computer just works its way along that line, and every about 20 meters along that line, picks the closest altitude point, does a little bit of calculation to smooth things out, and then is able to draw this terrain profile. And with that, obviously we're able to give users really critical information about what the hills are like, and what the nature of the walk is going to be like as an overall. Now, people have assumed that we've used GPS data here, but GPS data is highly inaccurate, particularly for altitudes. And so this has been by far the most accurate way that we've been able to represent elevation changes along a walk. And that was a data set that was provided by LPMA. Now, we use that same information to then calculate, to do some analysis, probably for our nerdier walkers. But this gives you straight away a sense of how much of the walk is flat, which in this case is most of it, how much of it's downhill up to 10 degrees and 20 degrees, and how much of it's uphill at different angles as well. So straight away, walkers are able to get a sense of, yeah, you know, overall this walk's pretty flat, and there's a couple of steep sections, but it's not too bad. Now, some walks will have big blobs over here and stuff like that, so you know that it's going to do your knees in or whatever. And again, that's using the digital elevation model. Now, this altitude variation we also use for calculating this climb value that appears up here. This data is a cumulative value, so every time the person goes up 10 meters, it adds on to the climb of the total climb value. So we're not just giving, because what most guidebooks are able to do is give you the difference between the start and the end. In this case, that would be a 0 climb, but that's truly not the case. So every time they go up 10 meters, we count 10 meters. They might go down 5 and then go up another 10, so we add another 10, so that's 20 meters, giving people a sense of what they're in for. We'll talk about transport soon, because there's more information there that comes from different government departments as well. Okay, so we've got track notes again. This is information that we write, and our own data. But here we've got climb and descent. These values again come from that digital elevation model provided by the LPMA, and our time calculation even relies heavily on that digital elevation data. So we use things like obviously the distance, the terrain quality, and critically the elevation gains and losses, so that we can give people a sense of how much time that's going to take, and we're able to calculate a consistent value then, rather than having some people walk it or people just make up values. This way we provide a regular and consistent value that